is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
DP to a third opportunity. Steph relocate. Got a three. Gary did it again. Back-to-back offensive rebounds.
All right, welcome in. It is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627. As sometimes we start right when the game starts. Sometimes we start when the game is over. And, man, this final 60 seconds or so has taken about 20 minutes. So we welcome you in here with the Warriors going to the free throw line one more time here to try and close out this victory in San Antonio over the Spurs. So we'll get you the final score when the game officially goes final here. But what a win this stands to be for Golden State, considering how bleak everything looked just 24 hours ago, and the postgame comments from not only Draymond Green, but Jimmy Butler, and then the lineup changes, which were to come for the Golden State Warriors. Steve Kerr talking about that before the ball game, and we talked about it last night right here on Dubs OT, the fact that it was time to make some lineup changes. And I think, does Steve Kerr listen to Dubs OT? We've got Kyle Haar in our Daily City studios. We'll bring in Kyle here early as people file into the YouTube chat. 808 KNBR, the number, 415-808-5627. Do you think Steve Kerr listens to Dubs OT, Kyle Haar?
I mean, yeah, you were right on it. You and Reggie made that good point yesterday. Reggie and Vallejo, one of our callers, pointed out, yeah, I think it's time for the Warriors to make a rotation change, and you agreed and shared the same thought that they should go Curry, Will Richard, Moses Moody, Jimmy, and Draymond at the 5, and that's what they started out with.
More Will Richard and more Moses Moody, I think, above everything, was the order of the day. And so Steve Kerr makes the lineup changes, and it didn't look good early in this game with those lineup changes, although that starting group, I think, was a -4 together in the first quarter. And the Warriors wind up winning this one 125-120, ends up being the final as we welcome you in here, Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. Warriors are 7-6. They end the 6-game road losing streak, and they win for the first time in the second game of a back-to-back by getting the job done, handing the Spurs San Antonio's first home loss of the season. And the Spurs have been playing great basketball to begin this year with Victor Wembenyama, and they just got De'Aaron Fox back, and nobody had gone into San Antonio and beaten them. And so what a difference 24 hours makes as it relates to the Warriors' ability to just kind of stem the tide and stay afloat here. Again, ugly first quarter. It was 14-11 with the starting group with Steph Curry, Will Richard, Moses Moody, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green. Al Horford and Jonathan Kaminga came in together off the Warriors bench, and it was not a good night for Jonathan Kaminga. We'll get to his injury coming up here in just a moment, as he ended up being unavailable for the second half of this game. But Horford really struggled. Buddy Hield struggled in that end of the first quarter run there. The Warriors were just ice freaking cold. They were getting open looks. They were moving the ball, and it just was wrecking their ability to defend overall. And the Spurs came out, and the Spurs were hitting shots. The Spurs were winning the non-Victor Wembanyama minutes, even with Steph on the court and Wemby not on the floor. The Warriors seemed like they didn't want to challenge on the interior with Victor Wembanyama on the court, taking 18 three-pointers in the first quarter out of 22 total shots. And you look up, and the Warriors wind up finding themselves down 28-14 going to the second quarter. Then they were down 33-17. It would be as bad as 56-40. 16 would be the big deficit. But this game started to turn right before halftime as the Warriors found themselves down 16, and they cut it down to a 7-point game, a 9-0 run to close the first half. That was the first turning point that got the Warriors back into this game after being down by 16. It was a group that featured Steph Curry, Brandon Podziemski, Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kaminga. Got to give Kaminga credit. He was a part of that group for about the final 5 minutes of the half that ended up going on that run. And Draymond Green at the 5 that brought the Warriors back after Moses Moody almost single-handedly kept them from being down 25. Prior to that, Moses Moody was the only player on the Warrior roster for nearly the entire first 24 minutes of action that could consistently hit a shot. And then Steph Curry woke up along the way there, and this winds up being a monumental Steph and Curry game. We talked about it last night. We've talked about it a lot here over the course of the last couple of weeks. You are always going to be as good as your best players. And last night, we called out Stephen Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green for not being good enough, and they had not been good enough collectively when they have been on the floor together. And obviously there's been stretches where they've been out of the lineup over the last couple of weeks. And tonight it was a completely different story. Steph Curry gets it going, and he ends up with 44 points on the night, 13 of 14 at the free throw line. Jimmy Butler, 28, 6, and 8 with 3 steals. So Jimmy Butler ends up having one of his best games of the young season, gets to the free throw line himself 12 times. The Warriors lived at the line tonight. They were at plus 18 in terms of points scored at the free throw line. That winds up being the difference in a game where the Warriors got outscored in the paint 52-22. But the Warriors were able to spread the floor, get some open looks from 3. San Antonio's been giving up the 3 ball, and tonight that winds up, along with the free throws, being the story of the game for the Warriors, in addition to one particular defensive matchup that we're going to point out. But the Warriors end up 57 3-point attempts in this game. They hit 21 of them, but you got to give the nod to that group that closed the second quarter. Steph Curry got it going, and that group that turned a game that was a 16-point game into a 7-point game going in at halftime really helped to flip the script there. Then Jonathan Kaminga, it was announced going into the third quarter, would not return to tonight's game due to knee soreness. And so the Warriors go out, and Kaminga had been on the injury report in the lead up to this game, as was some question as to whether or not Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green were going to be available to play in this game. They all play, and I want to make sure I give those guys a nod before we talk about the third quarter. I said it today on social media, and I'll double down, triple down, quadruple down, whatever you want to do, quintuple down, on the fact that it would have been a horrifically bad look if Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green did not play in tonight's game, second of a back-to-back, as badly as they looked last night in Oklahoma City, and then with the finger pointing or the questioning within the locker room from both Draymond and Jimmy. You don't say the things that those guys said, and I don't have a problem with either one of them saying what they said. And we spent the better part of the show last night discussing, who was Jimmy Butler calling out, who was Draymond Green calling out, all of that. But you can't have that performance last night and play that little and then tap out, take your PTO the next night in a game against an opponent that isn't on the Oklahoma City level. They're destroying the Lakers, by the way, right now, up 30 late in the second quarter in OKC, second of a back-to-back for the Thunder against the Lakers, who were waiting for the Thunder tonight. So the Thunder are playing great basketball right now, even shorthanded. But you can't have last night end the way it did and then tap out before the game even starts tonight. I think it just sets a bad tone. And so I give Steph credit for pushing to play. I give Draymond Green credit for playing in this game when Steve Kerr, I think, would have probably have preferred to have given him the night off. And I give Jimmy Butler credit in this game for performing at an extremely high level and being the Jimmy Butler that the Warriors need. Steph Curry, it doesn't have to be 28, 6, and 8. It doesn't have to be 44. But those guys all have to put their imprint on the game and then allow for the others on this Warriors roster to follow along. And that's exactly what happened. When they do that, they can win against anybody in the NBA. And we've seen it now here to begin this season. And we saw it last year in the 23-8. I got to be honest. Tonight looked an awful lot like the final 31 games from last year. And Will Richard was peppered in there, and Will Richard had some real positive moments in the starting lineup and in the second half in the midst of the Warriors' big run to kind of take control of the game. Moses Moody back in the starting lineup for the first time alongside Steph and Draymond and Jimmy. Like, Moody needs to be out there, and I don't think Moody would have been a starting player had he not gotten hurt in the preseason. And we've talked about it. It opened the door for Kaminga. Kaminga earned the right to start. It felt tonight like, you know, the Warriors, two things, going back to Moody in that starting lineup, but also the ability for all of the discussion about not wanting to play Draymond at the 5 and needing to play a big with him. And it's just not the way to get through 82 games. The Warriors are more engaged, and I think they're forcibly more engaged when they play small ball. I think when Draymond, and tonight he accepted the challenge against Wembenyama, and he was fantastic against Victor Wembanyama, who ended up being a -9 for the game. Draymond a +15, and Victor Wembanyama had 8 turnovers in the game. Draymond Green had one of the best 1 for 10 games that I think you'll ever see. 0 for 7 from 3 because of the defense. As somebody that's 6'4", 6'5", going up against somebody that's 7'5" or 7'6" in Victor Wembanyama and making him work. And Wemby ended up with a 31, 15, and 10 triple-double. But he had 8 turnovers, and he missed 11 shots. And he didn't dominate from three-point range. He got his, and the Warriors, collectively were able to withstand the rest of everybody else to be able to win this game 125-120. You got to give Draymond a lot of credit for going out there and battling, but this is what it's going to take. The Warriors, I just think they lack juice when they play some of these bigger lineups. And look, you're going to have bigger lineups at different points and against certain opponents, but Draymond at the 5 is what this Warriors team needs. With Steph Curry, with Jimmy. I think Jimmy's got to be basically playing the 4 as well to be able to kind of lock in. And it also, when you take that big off the court, and I think tonight, when you take Jonathan Kaminga off the court, you add ball movers and you add shooters. And I think you also improve yourself defensively compared to what we've seen over the last week and a half as well. And so the lineup seemed to make more sense for the Warriors up and down the rotation as this game went on. Didn't look great early, but the Warriors completely flipped this thing in the third quarter after being down by 7. They go 43-28 in the third quarter. Got to be the Warriors' best quarter of the season. And Steph, after starting 1 for 7, knocked down a couple. Warriors cut the lead down to 5. Then they grab the lead on a Steph 3, and all of a sudden Steph is cooking. Grabbed the lead with Curry on the bench. I think the game was tied at 80 when Steph went out, and they wind up 12-4 to close the quarter and wind up 43-28 in that quarter and take an 8-point lead going to the fourth quarter. They win this game by 5. A lot of big moments in the fourth quarter as well. Some big-time threes. Al Horford hit a big 3. Jimmy Butler, Steph, all with big threes. Couple of huge Gary Payton II rebounds in this game. Will Richard hit a big 3 after he got put in the game for Draymond Green when Draymond Green had picked up his 5th foul. Some rough Brandon Pajemski moments in the fourth, but also some big Brandon Pajemski moments on the positive side after there was a turnover. He couldn't set a screen, got called for an offensive foul, couldn't catch a pass that ended up being a turnover. Kerr stuck with him. Then he forced a jump ball, hit a big 3 himself, and then forced a turnover against Harrison Barnes to help the Warriors keep the Spurs at bay as the Spurs just kept coming down the stretch. Gary Payton II gets a nod tonight in the rotation, basically because of the Jonathan Kaminga injury. And GP2 winds up being somebody that was a big-time positive contributor for the Warriors in this game. He ends up being a +9 on the night. So you look at the guys, it was Curry, it was Draymond, it was Jimmy, it was Moody, it was Pods in this game, and it was GP2 tonight in this game as well. And some big moments. Horford struggled in the first half mightily, but performed at a higher level playing with that other group in the second half. So all in all, I think probably I think it might be the Warriors' best win of the season, even supplanting the Denver game when you consider the circumstances relating to everything that went down last night and how poorly this team has played over the last couple of weeks. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. We got the best YouTube chat in sports. People continuing to file in here on this Wednesday night. A couple of phone lines open, but we do want to get it rolling here on the phone lines tonight with Harry on 101. Up first here, tip-off caller, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. What's going on tonight, Harry? Best win of the season or no?
JD, I told you it was a gutless win yesterday, and I have the tables have turned. Best win of the season by far. I mean, I was wondering if they were going to get this effort last night. It kind of flip-flopped, don't you think? Like, you get this effort last night against OKC, the champs, and then have kind of a gutless effort tonight. But it just changed, and you know what? You can't. That's why sports are great, right? That's why sports are great. I mean, what a game. I'm glad you're able to watch it, and I'm glad you were able to enjoy it because you probably.
Oh, Harry, did we lose Harry? I think we lost Harry. Harry, appreciate the call. Appreciate you getting us tipped off here on Dubs OT. The Golden State. Oh, do we still have Harry?
JD, you got me?
Yeah, we got
JD,
you, Harry.
hello?
Finish it up. Yep, I got
Sorry.
you, Harry.
You know what? I was wondering with this team when they lost Kevon Looney, and big props to GP2, the smallest, biggest little man out there. He changed the game tonight. Like, you can talk about Steph, Jimmy Butler. They don't win this game without Gary Payne's second 6 rebounds. They don't. He was fantastic tonight, and tonight was a night that you do not, and I repeat, you do not put Draymond Green in a bench unit. He's a starter. He's a closer. And they don't win this night. They don't win tonight without him. They just simply don't. Like, I hear so much criticism towards Draymond Green and, oh, you got to trade him. He's a cancer. You don't win nights like tonight without him. He was brilliant tonight, just like you said.
Yeah, fantastic defensively. And again, it was kind of a throwback Draymond game where he's a rough watch at times in terms of his ability to score, but he just does everything else. And for him to go toe-to-toe with a guy that's more than a foot taller than him and a guy in Wembenyama who's just been dominating the league here in the first 3.5 weeks of the season, it's impressive as hell. And the ability to do that. And so I think you got to give Draymond a ton of credit. And again, this is a game where 24 hours ago, it didn't look like Draymond was going to play and it didn't look like Steph was going to play. And I just don't think that the Warriors could have let that slide. Thanks for the call. Appreciate it, Harry, for getting us rolling here at 808 KNBR. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Let's get Kyle. Can we get one more in here before the top, or do we have to get? Do we have to take a break?
No, we're good on spots this hour. So yeah, Danny in Vancouver,
Okay.
our guy.
All right, let's get Danny in Vancouver next here before our first time out, as we're off and rolling here on this Wednesday night. Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. Warriors win 125-120. A lot of game balls all the way around. Didn't start out great, but the Warriors showed some competitiveness that they were lacking in last night's game, despite the fact that they had Steph and Jimmy and Draymond all back and playing together. What's going on tonight, Danny?
Hey, JD, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good.
What a difference 24 hours can make, my friend.
Yes, my friend. That was a nice palate cleanser, as they say, after yesterday. Much more enjoyable. I thought all your comments were right on point as usual. I believe that if Draymond hadn't played, that would have been more of a statement than anything that Kerr or any of the team could have said. I mean, they had to come out and put in an effort like this. Even if they didn't win, it would have been bad, but it would have been much worse if they didn't play and lost. So if Green didn't play. So just a few thoughts. I thought it was Peyton's best game of the year. It was really nice to see him back and contributing like that. I thought he was great. I thought Pods played a really solid game and much more Pods-like that we've seen, where he contributes, he makes winning plays, he got some rebounds. So I was really happy for him. Moody was great. He kept him afloat, as you mentioned, in the first quarter. Steph was Steph, as usual. He finally broke loose for a big game. Only negatives, I would say, and obviously would love to hear your comments, JD, is Kaminga is he's a real conundrum. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but I think I was very happy with the starting lineup, by the way. I loved it. But I think Kaminga is just going to have to come off the bench, and if he plays well, he plays, and if he doesn't, he's not. I mean, he's just going to have to be game to game. And I think right now, again, just the only other negative, I think Buddy Hield has become unplayable. Buddy Hield, has become unplayable. And he made two of the stupidest plays I've seen. One at the end of the game where, they almost cost him a turnover at the very end when he was wide open and he had his back turned to the inbounds. And then there was a play in the second quarter, I think, where came down, Steph was wide open at the top of the three, was on a fast break, and he took some stupid shot and it went out of bounds. So I don't know what we're going to do with Hield. Maybe he'll when Mount comes in, he'll soak up those minutes. So other than that, great show as always, JD, and I look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Danny. Let's go ahead and take a quick timeout. We'll come back on the other side. I've been taking some notes. I'll give you my thoughts on everything you weighed in on. But I will say this, you can't have what was said last night post-game by Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler be said, and then you take the night off. Like, that to me would have been completely unacceptable. And I said it last night after the game, like, if you're going to be in this position, then you have, and say what you say, you have to come out and play. It can't be PTO night on the second of a back-to-back when basically you're reeling as a team. You got to come out and show up. And so I was prepared to give them credit, even in defeat, had they lost the game, for doing that. But that to me sets the tone. But we talk about it every night. This team just can't coast. They can't. And, do they have enough over 82 to bring efforts like tonight? I don't necessarily think it has to be, efforts like tonight in terms of the numbers, but the intent of, making yourself felt up and down in the game when with your best players is the most important thing. Like, Steph has to come out and be aggressive. Jimmy has to be aggressive. Draymond has to be aggressive in the ways that all three of them are aggressive. And that allows the other players to kind of settle into their roles and be able to be more effective. This team is only going to go as far. And that was the final 31. It was Steph and Jimmy and Draymond almost every single night. No coasting. And again, we can say that this Warriors team, it's no way to live over 82 and they might wear down, and Draymond having to play the 5 is a problem. Like, we can say all those things, but they really don't have a choice if they want to win enough games to avoid being a play-in team. They have to value these games and go out and try to win when they have everybody, as many of these games as possible. All right, let's take a quick timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. More thoughts on that. We got a couple of lines open, so if you want to jump in on the phone lines, the Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open, and we will get to Kyle's clicks here as people continue to file in on YouTube and Twitch. That's all straight ahead. Warriors get the win, a 46-point night from Steph and Curry. As they bounce back, they went on the road and they beat the Spurs 125-120. We're talking about it right here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Curry, way downtown. Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader. Streaming live at knbr.com and on the KNBR app.
Horford corner three. Big Al drops one in.
Yeah, Big Al with a big three. Warriors win 125-100 as they get the job done in San Antonio. The 6-game road losing streak since opening night in LA is over, and the Warriors improved to 7-6 on the season, 1-1 on the road trip. They'll play the Spurs again in San Antonio on Friday, then go to New Orleans before games in Orlando and Miami to close out the trip before coming back home. A monumental regular season November 12th victory for the Warriors, if there is such a thing. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation as Danny did here to begin the show. A couple of thoughts on what Danny had to say before we get into Kyle's clicks and the YouTube chat and all of that. GP2 only playing basically because Jonathan Kaminga wound up out and unable to return with some knee soreness, and he was on the injured report with the knee soreness in the lead up to the game. He was listed as questionable, able to go, didn't really play well in the first half. Again, was a part of that group that helped finish the second quarter with that 9-0 run that cut the 16-point lead down to 7. But didn't really look like himself, honestly. And I wonder if maybe some of that was potentially injury related, but it opened up a rotation spot in the second half for somebody that was not originally planned to even play tonight. And that player was GP2. And so GP2 stayed ready and got his opportunity in 15 minutes. And, GP2, a couple of layups, 6 boards, solid defense, keeps the ball moving. Sometimes there's just some matchups, teams with GPs cutting, they just don't account for him, and he can make an impact, get into the basket. He can be a ball mover. Like, really, GP2, a liability in some matchups, but a really useful player in other matchups, and somebody that that Steve Kerr trusts, even if he hasn't been in the rotation. And let's be honest, GP earned not being in the rotation because he had not, for the most part, played well and had hardly really been playing over the course of this stretch here of late, which coincided with the Warriors struggling a little bit. But yeah, GP doing a little bit of everything in the game tonight to help the Warriors. Moses Moody is Moses Moody the Warriors' fourth best player? I think Moses Moody, I think the answer's got to be yes, right? Like Moses Moody's the Warriors' fourth best player. And he is the one guy among Pods and Kuminga and Quentin Post and all of these young guys that's just the most steady. There are nights where Moses Moody makes shots and he looks awesome. There are nights where Moses Moody doesn't make shots and still it doesn't feel like he's killing you on the court, other than the fact that he's not making shots. And the name of the game is obviously putting the ball in the basket. But Moses Moody is just, there are some guys that when they aren't hitting, it just feels like they're not killing you as much, or when they're not playing well. And Moody is one of those guys, right? Moody's bad games don't really seem to crush you. And his good games, when he's knocking down shots, really are a boost. And, we've said it a lot about Moses Moody in terms of his growth. He really is the easiest player to fit next to Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond on this Warriors roster. Maybe other than of everybody else, which is why I think he's going to be somebody that is entrenched in the starting lineup moving forward here. And again, he's somebody that was going to be in the starting lineup had he not gotten hurt in training camp. And again, that opened the door for Kaminga. Moody missed the first couple of games of the season, and it changed everything. And I think the Warriors have been playing, they got off to a pretty good start, playing some of those bigger lineups and, playing Kaminga at the 3 and Jimmy at the 2, even some, trying to get Draymond off the 5. I think they're still going to find ways to try to get Draymond off the 5, but their best lineups are with Draymond at center. Their best lineups are with Draymond at center. Their best lineups are with Moody out there with Draymond and Steph and Jimmy Butler. And then you can kind of pick your fifth on a given night. Is it Will Richard? And Richard, I think, is the most Moses Moody-like player other than Moses Moody on the entire roster. And so now you can put two guys out there that are just steady, that aren't really going to make a lot of mistakes, that aren't, when they don't play well, going to kill you. And it allows for Steph and for Jimmy and for Draymond to kind of do their thing and settle into the game. And so I don't know how long Steve Kerr's going to stick with this starting lineup. I know he did say post-game in San Antonio to the reporters on hand there that he is going to start the same way against San Antonio on Friday after the day off tomorrow. And I think it makes a lot of sense. As it relates to Buddy, I think Will Richard's going to start playing and was already probably going to start playing some of Buddy Hield's minutes, and they still need his shooting. And I think maybe it's a deal where Melton comes back and you're playing Melton and maybe you're playing Pods a little less, but it's just the Warriors still lack shooting. And so I think it's worth throwing Buddy out there for a couple of minutes here and there just to see if he's hot, because on nights where he's hot, and even on nights where he isn't hot, teams still, Buddy Hield has a reputation for being able to knock down shots. And so you do have to guard him out there, even though there are nights where he might be cold, or nights where he's a liability defensively, or he's making some dumb mistakes, or whatever the heck it is. So there are some nights where that is the case. But Buddy, it was rough. And when Buddy and Horford and Kaminga were out there together tonight, it was rough in a couple of different sequences there, middle of the second quarter, but really to close the first quarter as well, before the Warriors got it going down the stretch of that first quarter. And then Kaminga, Danny in Vancouver said it. I think as it relates to, Kaminga is back to where things were at the beginning of training camp, where the contract stuff was dragging on. It ultimately was determined that Kaminga was going to sign and come back. and he was going to be on the 1-year deal plus the team option for year 2. And it's really where it was most of the summer. Kaminga's going to come back, and he's going to do the things that he's asked to do, or he's not going to play. And I feel like that's where we are now. Again, he got off to a great start. He's trying to do the things that he was asked to do, but it's at the point now where the Warriors are at their best when he is a bench player. That is just the bottom line. The Warriors are at their best when he comes off the bench, and he almost becomes somebody that, does he get it off the gravity of everybody else? And it's a lot of layups and dunks and transition. And is he looking to pass and rebound? Like, his game should not change at all. And I do think there are rotation minutes for him, but the rotation minutes for him, I think coming off the bench, it's only going to help everybody else on this Warriors roster get more comfortable. And it will make for a more seamless transition, I feel like, after January the 15th, because it is becoming more and more clear again that the Warriors are going to have to look to move him. Like, that is just the reality. And I don't want to make too much of one night, but there were a bunch of times tonight, both with the starting group and after he went out in the second half, where it looked like last year's 23-8 team. It did. The ball was moving. Steph was in a rhythm. Jimmy was being aggressive. I thought this last night, and I think this has happened at times throughout the beginning of the season. I think there are times where the Warriors veterans, because they know Kaminga wants to have a bigger role, I think at times when the Warriors veterans are struggling in terms of their energy for the game, I think they just kind of, they defer to Kaminga. And I think there are times where they just kind of defer to Kaminga because they know Kaminga wants to do more. And then Kaminga's almost been caught in between on, well, wait a minute. Like, do I try to take it over a little bit now? Or do I continue to try to do the things that the coaching staff wants me to do that are going to earn me playing time and potentially get me, traded somewhere else to a situation I'd prefer to be in? And I think at times the veterans, in fairness, have not done Kaminga a lot of favors on that note. But I think when he's coming off the bench, it makes the whole thing a little bit easier to navigate. I'm not going to change my tune at all. I've been steadfast in saying this. I've been consistent. The Warriors are going to be better off when they can trade Jonathan Kaminga after January 15th, even if they trade him for a role player. That is bottom line, simply put, and you see it tonight. You add one more role player that fits with the guys that they have, and they can make that work. They can make that work against a lot of these good teams. So I think we're beyond the, they need Kaminga to soak up minutes here and there in the regular season while he's on the team. It's probably more of a 15 to 23 on a lot of nights minutes, unless there's going to be guys out. But they are not dependent on Kaminga, making a leap to be a title contender. And again, I'm not saying tonight proves they're a title contender either by any stretch of the imagination. So that's kind of my 2 cents as it relates to Kaminga. Again, he's tried to do things the right way. He's also injured now, but they're going to need him, but they need him more as filler than they do to be a true contributor. Again, they need him as a role player and not as somebody that veteran players at times defer to because they're out of energy and they know that he wants to do more. Like that ain't it, and hasn't been it. And I think has been something that they've done and did last night at different times. They're not doing him any favors at that particular point in time. All right, let's continue on here. Kyle's Clicks, our first installment of the evening here. Kyle Haar in our Daly City studios. What do we got, Kyle? Let's go. Sear, JD, the last few shows you spoke about covering up Kaminga drama so his trade value doesn't tank. Tonight's benching says a lot about what Kerr thinks of him, and best believe Kaminga's camp will react. Well, he didn't get benched. He was hurt, and he was on the injury report. And so, I mean, if you're saying benched in terms of not being a starter tonight, so the hell what? Like, that part I don't care about at all. Like, so the hell what? And again, I've been very consistent about it. To me, I cringed when Steve Kerr said, yeah, Kaminga's going to be a starter. And I think I even said to Kyle the night that he said it, I said, oh, man, like, how long is it going to be? Because every time Steve Kerr or anyone has anointed Kaminga, it's always not too far from something flipping on it to where things change, and he winds up not being a part of the plans. And so the Warriors don't have to start him to not allow for the trade value to tank. They just have to play him and try to keep the energy positive. And I think that's where the injury in some ways becomes a blessing in disguise. And that, hey, he's injured. He's injured. They're moving to a different lineup that best suits the team. And when he's healthy, there will be minutes for him. And is it going to be a lesser role than Kaminga wants? Maybe. But I think he still, to begin this season, already had a lesser role than he wanted, even though he was admirably, and I've given him credit for this, attempting to do things in the way that the coaching staff was asking. But it is delicate. It is delicate. The way the Warriors have to balance this thing, because you don't want to be in a position where the rest of the league believes that it's a sunk cost and you're not going to get anything other than somebody else's problem for Jonathan Kaminga. Brian Banks, somebody said JK should fake an injury for 2 months and watch the Warriors struggle. What a joke. We will go 20-2 again without him. Yeah, I didn't see that. I don't know who said that. I'm sure it's flying around on social media somewhere. But yeah, that would be a mistake. That would be a mistake for Kaminga, because again, you just got to call it like it is. When he's not on the court and everybody knows he's not going to be on the court, then the rest of the team is able to get into a better rhythm. I think both offensively and defensively, they're able to get in a better rhythm. And again, I'm not saying he can't or shouldn't play at all. He can be a bench player. He can play a shift, a half. He can play maybe a second shift, a half, if he's playing well, if the first shift goes well. Like, he can play anywhere between, I would say, probably 15 and 25 minutes on a lot of nights for this team. But if he isn't playing well, then I think Kerr has to go to other players on a given night who are performing at a higher level. And as for, what do you do at the deadline and all of that? Again, it's too far away. It's too far away, but what we've seen here is the last 2 weeks, and it's been almost 2 weeks. I think that the Kaminga slump goes back to the Indiana game on November 1st. I know, some are acting like it was a 2. Now, it's really been like a 5-game thing. But the reality is the Kaminga slump is you just shift him to a bench role. You shift him to a bench role and you move forward at that point. But yeah, I don't know about any of this fake an injury or any of that stuff. But they do have to be willing to keep appearances up. That's just part of the game. You don't want there to be any leaks of drama or him being ticked off or the agent doing another media tour or any of that kind of stuff. And so whatever needs to happen to keep everything. And look, this comes on the heels of last night also, where it's who is Draymond calling out and who is Jimmy Butler calling out. And Steve Kerr, doubles down pregame essentially by saying that he agreed with Draymond and added that he didn't think it was an individual player playing selfishly, but the team overall wasn't in sync. And so that led to the rotational changes, which really keyed this Warriors victory. Even though the game didn't start out well, that starting group played pretty well together. I think they were about even together. I didn't look at the final numbers, but I think they were a slight plus, that group together, if not even at a minimum. All right, let's continue with JT in Oakland, and then we'll get more in the YouTube chat. What's going on, JT? You're on Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader.
Hey, good, man. Well, Buddy Hield, that's an easy one. If he's not hitting his shots, he's a liability every night. Jonathan Kaminga, I am so sick of talking about it, and here's why. I don't find him a high basketball IQ player, and we have probably 3 of the highest basketball IQ guys on the court. Butler, Steph, Draymond. There's also a Horford in there. It's glaringly more so seen now with that. He doesn't know where he's at. It's that great athlete, but not a great basketball player. And
you're not wrong.
It's year 6. He has flashes, sleepy points, scored 51 in a game. He was a terrible Warrior. I don't know if they don't want to admit that they made a mistake, put too much stock in this guy. And the guy called out a coach who has 10, 11 rings. He doesn't know how to coach me. I mean, that should have been the end of it right there. That's just my opinion, but I mean, it's been 6 years.
The end is near.
Any faith in this guy's being on our contract, man. Period.
JT, the end is near, but it is still, I think, a minimum of 64 days away because he can't be traded until January the 15th, and we are still only at November the 12th. But I think, the contract, should they have traded him 2 years ago? Yes. I was an advocate of that going back to a previous radio life, and I got a lot of flack for that, and that's fine. People always, I think, are they like the talent. They like the athleticism. They like the ability to make somebody with the tools that Kaminga has into a basketball player to help, to help with the upside. And, but you always feel you can coach an athlete to play. And a lot of the times it doesn't happen. And when it does happen, it takes years and years and years and years. The Warriors missed their window, I think, to trade Kaminga, when a team could have picked him up and basically had him under contract for a year and a half and then made the same decision that the Warriors ultimately did in restricted free agency. But they didn't. And so once they didn't, it became a situation where they had to do what they did in terms of looking to re-sign him and play hardball with him on the contract and get the team option for the second year. And all of the ways, as frustrating as it was that the Warriors played out the contract situation in the summer, they had to play it out that way to give themselves a pathway to be able to trade him now. Or if he does finally have something click, maybe you keep him. It's kind of the last dance for him. And he got off to a great start. And again, I don't even think to this point this season, it's even Kaminga's fault, because he is trying and has tried. I think he's tried more than he ever has at the beginning of this season to be the type of player that the Warriors want him to be. There are times, and I think, the first 4 years of his career, for the most part, and I've said this, he really has not been willing to. And that's been part of the problem. This year, I think he's been willing to try and make it work. And you know what? It did for 6 games. And you know what? Now it hasn't for 7 games. And so, it's just going to be one of those things that's never, I think, perfect. But I do think we've seen, tonight, and we'll see if he doesn't play here upcoming. The Warriors do have more options other than him than I think a lot of people believe they have in terms of how to function night to night over the course of an NBA regular season. The one thing I still hear too much that I don't like hearing is this: they need him, they're desperate, they have to have him, they can't get through the regular season without him, those kinds of things. We saw the 31 games at the end of the year last year where he basically was a contributor in one of them, and they went 23-8. And tonight, one game, small sample size, new team, new season, but tonight was basically an extension of last year. It felt that way. Good team on the road. Even when the Warriors get down, they fight back. They defend. Again, I think playing the small ball lineups almost forces Steph and Jimmy and Draymond to play harder. And again, you can make the case that might be not good for them over the long haul because eventually they'll break down, but it forces them to engage at a level that they need to engage at for this team to have the ability to win games. And so I think that's a, unintended positive, I think consequence about the lineup change independent of Kaminga. That's kind of a separate point. But again, it's like I've always said, just treat him like a role player. Treat him like a role player, and he can give you a spark some nights. Other nights, maybe he doesn't. And then keep appearances up in terms of everybody being happy with each other. And then you've got that 2.5, 3 week window on January 15th, and you move him. And you move him for a role player. And, just because you move him for a role player or a bench player doesn't, that can help you maybe recoup some of the attrition that's been built up over the way that you've had to play for the next 2 months to earn a lot of these wins. All right, 808 KNBR. Let's get another one. Nick and Belmont next. Here, it's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Hey, what's up, Nick?
What's up, JD? That was a great game, man. That was a fun one to watch. I wasn't going to call in, but I kind of wanted to add my 2 cents to this Kaminga trade talk stuff. I mean, first few games of the year, he was, playing lights out, and I would never dream of trading him. But kind of with recent developments the last few days here, I would have to think that Anthony Davis out in Dallas is going to get shopped at some point here. And I think moving Kaminga, the money works. Moving Kaminga and maybe like a Buddy Hield or something like that for a guy like AD, does that not create the kind of super team that you kind of get behind to win a ring? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you'd have to probably end up including Draymond in that kind of a deal as well because of the numbers on the contract. I mean, Kaminga is making, that 21, 22 $million range, but Anthony Davis is making a lot. I think he's making, let me bring up his contract right now. Anthony Davis is making $54.1 million this season. That's much more. You'd have to put Kaminga and Draymond together with Buddy Hield to bring back Anthony Davis if you were going to look to do that. The one player on the Warriors roster, and I think the one player on the Warriors roster that I think almost has a perfect match in terms of contract with Davis is actually Jimmy Butler, but I don't think anybody would obviously on the Warriors end be looking to do that. Yeah, exactly. Jimmy Butler and Anthony Davis make the exact same amount of money, 54.126. So that's a player for player deal. But if you get into, Kaminga's contract right around the 22 and Draymond right around 25, then you start to get into you get closer to that range. But obviously, Dallas would have to want to do that to be able to, and the Warriors would have to want to do that. I don't know if the Warriors would want to move Draymond Green at this point for AD, but maybe they do. Maybe they do, and I think there's a conversation to be had. But that feels like a little bit more of a pipe dream at this point. But Kaminga could be a part of that type of a deal if the Warriors wanted to go that route.
For sure. No, the math makes sense when you explain it that way. But does that what you just
would
said?
You do Draymond? I'll just ask you. I'll ask you, Nick, before I let you go. Would you do Draymond and Kaminga for Anthony Davis? Just two guys just chatting on a Wednesday night. Would you do that deal?
No, I wouldn't. But I think this makes the bag fumble of Dunleavy not having dealt him a couple of years ago even harder to deal with.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And that's the one thing I think everybody can agree with. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate the call, man. Always a good one. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and take a timeout. We'll come back and we'll get more Kyle's clicks here coming up. We've had a bunch of calls here and texts, so we've neglected the kind folks in the YouTube chat here on this Wednesday night. So we want to give the people in the chat their opportunity to jump in and join the conversation. We'll also have Sounds at Dubs OT coming up as well as the Warriors get what I think is their win of the season, 125-120. They get the job done in San Antonio, and we're talking about it right here, Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
All of a sudden, the young Spurs tighten up. Shots that were falling for them aren't falling anymore. Curry for the lead. He got it. Steph's got 33. They've come from 16 down.
Yeah, Warriors from 16 down to win this game, 125-120 on a 46-point night for Steph and Curry. We're back here, Dubs OT, with JD on the Sports Leader. Big night for Steph, big night for Jimmy Butler, 28, 6, and 8 for Jimmy Buckets, and Draymond Green, just a masterclass defensively against Victor Wembenyama. Draymond ends up 6 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, but a plus 15, and I say held Wemby to 31, but he did have 8 turnovers, missed 11 shots, and didn't completely live at the free throw line in this one, and the Warriors wind up getting the win after an ugly, ugly start. The Warriors got their offense going after the first quarter, 14 points in the first, and then the Warriors go 35, 43, 33 over the course of the final 3 quarters of this one. The 43-28 third proved to be the difference. The Warriors started their run late in the second quarter with a 9-0 spurt, and they are 7-6 on the year, a much, much needed victory as they drop the Spurs to 8-3. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Phone lines are open, but let's get back to the YouTube chat here. Kyle's clicks between now and 9 o'clock here on the Sports Leader. Gene, our buddy Gene, JD says the Warriors play harder when Dre is at the 5, and that's how they'll win games. He's right. But, man, it's not sustainable for 80-plus for Dre at the 5. To me, just because you start that way doesn't mean you have to play a ton of minutes that way the whole entire night. Just because he starts at the 5 doesn't mean he plays the 5. The start of the second, start of the fourth quarter groups, they usually always have a center out there. It's typically Podziemski, Moody at the 2, Butler at the 3, Draymond at the 4, Quentin Post at the 5. In the fourth quarter tonight, it was Horford at the 5 instead of Quentin Post, as Kerr went a little bit more defense and a little bit more veteran at the top of the fourth quarter. So those are some built-in minutes. You also can bring a center into the game like they did tonight as the first or second sub. It's only 5 minutes to start the game. Everything flows better when the Warriors have Steph, Jimmy, Draymond, and then they have a couple of guys who can either move the ball or shoot. And Moody, I'm sorry, Moses Moody's got to be the 4th. Like that, Steph and Draymond and Jimmy are playing. Moody's got to be the 4th. And so at that point, it's either Moody at the 3, Jimmy at the 4, Draymond at the 5, or it's Moody at the 2, Jimmy at the 3, Draymond at the 4, and then you have to pick a 5 at that point, but then you're not going to be playing, Will Richard maybe, then Pajemski's coming off the bench. I mean, whatever it is. I think it's more sustainable than people think, I guess is probably the way to put it. But, man, Andis, the offense looked much better. A lot of good action, created a lot of confusion and good looks. It's those combinations. Again, I think that started the second, fourth quarter with Jimmy. That group works. Steph on the bench. I think the starting group works. What the Warriors have to tweak and what really put them in trouble tonight is they have to tweak that end of the first quarter, end of the third quarter group. The first 5-6 minutes of each quarter of the first and third are fine. I think the first 4, 5, 6 minutes of the second and fourth are fine. You know your closing lineup's going to be based on either your starters or your best 5 on that given night. To me, the part of the game that has screwed the Warriors up of late and really did tonight is how do you close the first quarter and how do you close the third quarter? Because Steph's out there for some of it. They went Horford Kaminga. That group didn't work. That's the part where Buddy Hield's in the game, and Buddy hasn't been great. But, yeah, the flow was there because you have Steph and Draymond and Jimmy who can all play together beautifully. And then you had Moody who was hitting shots early when the other guys weren't. And he's somebody that, again, offensively, Moses Moody's either going to take the open 3, he's going to drive against a closeout, or he's going to keep the ball moving. Those types of players offensively around Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond are the most valuable kinds of players. And Will Richard, as young and inexperienced in NBA terms as he is one of those guys, which is why I think he has the ability, and it's why Pajemski's worked. Eventually, by the way, this thing is all coming back to Steph, Pajemski, Moody, Jimmy, and Draymond, which was the lineup that was 17-3 or 17-4 or whatever the heck it was down the stretch last season. This is where it's all, and that group has still not started a game together. I don't think that 5 has even played. They played a couple of minutes together tonight, I believe, but still have not played a lot together to begin this season. But good thought, Andis. Daryl Lightfoot, JD, would a trade of Kaminga for Lively and Max Christie work? All right, well, let's take a look at this. Let's go Dallas Mavericks salaries here. And I'm going to bring it up. Dallas Mavericks salaries. So you've got, who did we say? We said Max Christie, $7.7 million. And then Lively is making 5.2. So the Mavs would actually have to include somebody else. The Warriors would probably have to take a bad contract there. They'd have to take like a Caleb Martin probably back in that kind of a deal. The guy that would be a great fit for the Warriors would be PJ Washington. Now, he just signed an extension. So he's actually signed through 2029, 30, but he's only 27. Like PJ Washington, you put PJ Washington on this team, that would be, I think, and again, PJ Washington makes less than Kaminga still right now, 14.1. Kaminga's in that 22 range. So you'd have to, could it be PJ Washington and Caleb Martin? That would be too much money because the Warriors are hard capped. So the Warriors would have to send somebody back the other way. Now, Dallas is definitely a team to watch, though, I think, moving forward. I know you would want Lively, and they've got too many bigs. But, yeah, if Dallas does look to go the tear it down route, Klay Thompson's a bad contract. Well, not as bad as you would think because he's only signed, looking at Klay Thompson, for this year and next. I mean, it's a bad contract, but it's 16.6 this year. It's 17.4 next year. So it's a bad contract because he's not a productive player at this point, but it's really not that bad. And it would be aligned with the Warriors next few years, I think, as well. But yeah, that Dallas is a team to watch. Dallas from Gafford, who I don't think would interest the Warriors because he's under contract for this year +3, to PJ Washington, to Najee Marshall, I think, to Christie, I think to Lively. I think there are a lot of players actually on the Mavs if they look to be sellers that would fit what the Warriors are really looking for. Digum 117, we can't expect Curry to play like this into April. He was nuclear tonight, but this game is much easier if other players can make open shots. Yeah, Steph's not going for 44 every night. I mean, that's that. Like, nobody's saying that. And I know, Digum, I'm not saying that. But, I mean, other guys have to make shots. Pajemski didn't do that tonight. Moody did when nobody else was tonight. But, yeah, I still think, while the Warriors found some more workable ways to play the game tonight and some things that got them into a better offensive flow tonight, I still think they're a player away. I do still think that they are a player not currently on the roster away, a rotation player, not a star away from, and it's one more guy that can just get a bucket. One more guy that can drive and get to the basket and create and knock down an open three. Like, they're one more, and I think that player doesn't necessarily have to be a wing. If it's a wing, that would be awesome. I think even if it's a guard, and we know Steve Kerr doesn't really like to play those kinds of guards, but if it was somebody else that would give you an option to play Buddy and Pods a little bit less, I think that player in the regular season could be much more beneficial than what we're seeing on some of these other nights. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Another one here. Golden State Warriors in Espanol. Appreciate that. They played horrible and were able to bounce back. We have to be patient on this long road trip. Again, changes were needed last night. And they made those changes tonight. Different starting lineup, different rotation, fewer minutes for Kaminga, and it all worked out. Even though the Warriors got off to a horrendous start in this game and were down 16 in the first half and down 28-14 at the end of the first quarter. But yeah, now you got an opportunity to get another one. JC Mack, I thought the key to the game was Kaminga not playing. Didn't know he was injured. Yeah, it was announced by the Warriors at halftime, and I'm not sure if I don't recall hearing it. I'm always kind of toggling between a couple of screens on the those of you that have been with us here on Dubs OT for a while. I'm always toggling between the what television's getting the audio, especially when the local Warriors feed is on. I'm always kind of, and I usually have some other games going. Like right now, I've got the Nuggets and the Clippers going. Right now, I've got the Hawks and the Kings going. That's on a split screen. And then I've got the Lakers and OKC going right now. No sound on any of them right now because we're in the middle of the show, but I've got those to where I can kind of glance a little bit to my right and be able to see. So I may have been toggling to another feed at that point. But yeah, it was, so I don't know if it was mentioned on the broadcast in the moment, but yeah, Kaminga had some knee soreness. He was on the injury report in the lead up to the game and listed as questionable with, I think it was bilateral knee tendonitis. So basically, sore knees, both knees are a little bit sore. And so he was able to play, but then I guess not able to play. I guess it was bothering him in the first half. He did not look 100% healthy. I will say that. I mean, sometimes part of JK looking tentative is that he doesn't fully trust his body. And if you remember last year with that high ankle sprain, it kept him out for so long. Remember, it was like, God, when is Kaminga coming back? When is he coming back? It was, and I think, part of that was Kaminga not totally feeling 100% like he could truly be himself on the court. And so if Kaminga doesn't, I think sometimes if he's less than 100, he doesn't always completely trust what he's got in the tank, which is, again, that's not a knock. I think that's just normal. So if he doesn't feel like he can, have the juice that he needs, then it's probably best to sit him down. But yeah, he was injured tonight, taken out of the starting lineup by coach's decision for Moses Moody and Will Richard, who started with Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. But he did not play in the second half due to some knee soreness after being on the injury report earlier today. Paul Hansen, look at how bad the Lakers are getting beat by Oklahoma City. Yeah, it's 108-73. It was 70-38 at halftime. It is now 108-73. Lakers have been pretty good. they've been able to, but yeah, the Thunder, I mean, think about that. Second of a back-to-back, still no Jalen Williams, and the Thunder just putting a beating on the Lakers, who to this point in the season have been playing pretty quality basketball. And this one, I don't think Warrior fans are going to like as much, but go back a week ago tonight when the Warriors rested everybody in Sacramento and Steph wasn't ready to play and the Kings ended up beating them barely, even though the Warriors played the 4 through 15 on their roster. Sacramento is down 102-68 to Atlanta right now at home, and they have not won, the Kings, since they beat the Warriors a week ago tonight. OKC went in there and beat them. They've had a tough schedule. OKC went in there and beat them. Minnesota went in there and beat them. Denver went in there and beat them. How about that? You got the Warriors coming in, and then you got OKC, Minnesota, Denver. Boom, boom, boom. And now tonight, Atlanta. And Sacramento is down by 37 at home to Atlanta after 3 quarters. That game going on in Sacramento. So they are not good. Max Lopez, I hate to say this, Dylan Brooks is a fit. Yeah, Dylan Brooks would be a fit. Dylan Brooks, I think, is a fit. Although, can you have Dylan Brooks and Draymond? Can you have both of those guys? But Dylan Brooks, 3-and-D wing. As long as he's not taking bad shots, I don't think the Warriors internally would want Dylan Brooks on the roster. I mean, I think there's probably a little too much history to where you're bringing Dylan Brooks into the equation. But I get it. Warrior fans hate him, but from a purely basketball standpoint, if you could harness some of the BS, Dylan Brooks would be a quality player, two-way player, not have him thinking he's Steph pulling up from 25 feet out on the break for, 3-point range. But if you can get him to play smart and keep some of the antics in control, we the champs, babe. Brooks is a fit, but can you have Draymond and Brooks? I don't know about that one. But on paper, I like Dylan Brooks. I know, again, I get it. Any Warrior fan hates him, but I like him. I think it's all a bunch of nonsense, some of the extracurricular stuff. Fozzie checking in. Hate to say it because Steve doesn't want to play Dre at the 5 too much, but our best lineups are with Dre at the 5 and your other 4 guys. That's a fact. Fozzie, that's a fact. It's undeniable. I've been trying to say it, and I lost count because of the Steph injury and the different lineups because of the Steph. But when the Warriors have started Draymond at the 5, I think they're 4-1. I think they're 4-1 when Draymond starts at the 5. 4-1, 5-2. Most of their freaking wins have been with Draymond starting at the 5. Like, they are better with Draymond at the 5. Like, I don't think Draymond's a 4 anymore, to be honest. Like, I just think Draymond is a 5. Yeah, I know we the champs. I know you were quoting me. The bigger lineups suck because Post and TJD are bench warmers masqueraded as starters. TJD should not be playing at all. We mentioned that last night. Post, I think, can play. There are a lot of regular season games where Quentin Post can play. Maybe not against the Thunder and the Spurs with Wemby. But, again, I just keep coming back to the fact that Draymond Green accepting the challenge and Draymond Green being willing to play tonight, because really there's only one player on the entire Warriors roster that can handle Wembenyama even a little bit. And it's Draymond. So the only way the Warriors were going to frustrate Wembenyama enough to win the game was if Draymond Green said, I'm playing, I'm guarding him, and I'm going to make life difficult on him. He's still got a freaking 31-point triple-double in the game. I mean, but he had 8 turnovers. He missed 11 shots. Like, that is 19 times Draymond, and he wasn't on him for all of it, but that is 19 times tonight Wembenyama was stopped. Think about that. 19 times tonight Wembenyama was stopped, even though he ended up with 31 points, and a majority of that was Draymond Green. I mean, nobody else has been doing that to Wembenyama here the first 3+ weeks of the season. But I'm with you on TJD. He needs to not play at all. GP2 with a resounding return to the rotation. Kind of saw it coming, but also didn't see it coming. Bennett Roth. Yeah, it was all Kaminga. It was the Kaminga injury opened the door. Somebody's got to play if you're going to go with a similar rotation. And that means somebody that wasn't penciled in. And I mean, you look at the rotation tonight for the Warriors, and it was basically, it was Steph, Moody, Will Richard, Jimmy, Draymond were the starters. Kaminga was in the rotation. Horford was in the rotation. Podziemski was in the rotation. And then Buddy and Post kind of in the rotation. It was those, Post a little bit. Those were the two guys in pencil. It was basically a 9-man rotation. Quentin Post was 9.5. And then GP2 took Kaminga's spot. Peyton ended up 14 minutes. Kaminga played 12 all in the first half, a couple of shifts. And I think on a normal night where Kaminga plays solid, he plays 26 minutes tonight. And GP2 probably doesn't play at all. And the Warriors still play 10. And that's how they wind up divvying it up. But yeah, I mean, Peyton is so tricky because there's just a lot of nights where he is just a non-factor, but you have to find the right nights to be able to play him. You have to find the right nights to play him and the right nights to not play him. So, all right, let's take a timeout. 808 KMBR 415-808-5627. More comments coming up. Sounds of Dubs OT coming up as well. Warriors win 125-120, and we're talking about it right here in the Sports Leader.
KNBR presents the sounds of Dubs OT.
I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors better without Curry.
No class, no balls.
I want to get my joy back. I'm happy here, off the court.
Now here's John Dickinson.
All right, back here at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Friendly wager with the great Kyle Haar as the Laker Thunder game comes to an end here, 20 seconds to go. I was just kind of looking up at the scores, and I said, we can throw this in the chat here while we're doing sounds at Dubs OT, but the Lakers right now are down 30, 121-91, only 20 seconds to go. The Kings are down 41. Actually, the Kings are down 44 now. It's 117-73 in Sacramento. The Hawks have the lead there. And I said to Kyle, I said, who's gonna wind up losing by more, the Lakers or Sacramento? And Kyle, I don't think he knew how much time was left in either game. He says, I think the Lakers. And I'm like, well, and then I looked, there's still 8 minutes to go. So Kyle, you're alive, man. The Lakers are going to lose by 29.
Okay.
And the Kings are down by 41. So you need the Kings plus 13 over the last 8:07 here to close the gap. Friendly,
need some Keon
Nick,
Ellis or someone to step up huge right now.
Yeah. So who can the Kings cut it to 29? We'll throw that in the chat here, and maybe Kyle will earn himself a red cup of his choice.
Ooh, what a prize!
Moving forward. All right, let's get to sounds at Dubs OT. Steve Kerr beginning his post-game press conference from San Antonio, talking about Steph Curry. I mean, how can you not? I mean, tonight is truly one of those nights where you have to appreciate Stephen Curry as he goes for 46. The rust is gone. He's able to look much healthier after not looking all that healthy in his return last night. Here is Steve on Steph.
When you have the privilege of watching Steph for 11 plus years, like I have, you get used to this. And he's the reason this whole thing has happened. You know, he's our Tim Duncan. You know, he's the sun, you know, in our solar system. And he's just such an incredible player and teammate. And it's great to see him back out there. I thought last night he was able to at least shake the rust off. It's probably good. He only played 19, 20 minutes. And you can see even in the first quarter, he was still a little rusty, and then he found it.
Yeah, he found it, I think 1 for 7 to begin the game. So, I mean, you do the math there. That's 12 of 18 from that point, and he ends up 5 for 16 from 3-point range. Got to the line a ton tonight. Tonight was a game where the Spurs, for all the Warrior problems fouling from time to time, the Spurs, they fouled a ton tonight, and the Warriors were really living at the line, got into the penalty, and it, along with the 3-point shot and the job the Warriors did on Wembenyama, proved to be the difference. All right, another one from Steve Kerr about the lead-in from last night to tonight, and we talked a ton about it. The fact that last night was embarrassing, last night was gutless, and again, I give the Warriors credit for all their guys playing tonight. Again, I think it would have been completely unacceptable had Steph Curry, off of being ill and missing a bunch of games and then playing 19, 20 minutes last night, not play tonight. Draymond, who did get a night off in Sacramento a week ago, not playing tonight, although we all know he is banged up. I take everybody at the word on that. And then Jimmy, like you don't get to comment the way you commented last night post-game and then take the night off. So the Warriors, because of those three playing, it really set the tone for everybody else, and the Warriors were far more competitive. Here's the head coach.
overall competitive spirit. I just felt like we were connected, and the guys were embarrassed last night, and we were a little out of whack, and this happens. I told the team today in 2022 we won the title. I think we lost 6 games in a row in March, if I'm not mistaken. Might have been like 8 out of 9 or something, and we won the title like 3 months later. So in the 82 game season, you're just going to have spells, but the important thing is to rediscover your identity and your competitive spirit, and that's what I saw tonight.
Yeah, the Warriors definitely did that, and I think the lineup changes help that, so a nod to Steve Kerr for that. And again, we talked about it a ton. Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond have to lead the way. They cannot, for the most part, take nights off and expect this team to be able to compete at a high level, especially against the better teams. And San Antonio looks like they're maybe going to be one of the better teams in the Western Conference at 8-3 after the game tonight. All right, another big headline tonight, what Draymond did defending Victor Wembenyama. I mean, just tremendous stuff here. So here's what Steve Kerr thought of the defensive effort tonight from Draymond Green in his 26 minutes on the court.
Well, you said it. You got to make him work for everything, and you just can't give him the easy stuff. It didn't feel like he got a lot of easy baskets tonight. Draymond did an incredible job on him, and he's one of those guys you just have to embrace the fact that he's probably going to get 30. But you just want to make it difficult and try to keep him off the foul line. He got six free throws, a couple of them late. So overall, we did a decent job on him, but the guy is just an incredible player.
Yeah, terrific player and ascending. And, I think San Antonio, it's just great for the league to have him healthy and one of the headlining stories here to begin the year. But San Antonio was a team that, you didn't really know what level his leap was going to be to begin this year. But because he started off as a MVP candidate, that level, in the first 3-4 weeks of the season, it really, San Antonio is immediately, if he's going to be that kind of player, in the mix to avoid the play-in tournament. Now, they have a lot of really good young players. They're trying to figure out how to go from bad to good. Not many of these young players, really, none of them have had success in their NBA careers, team success in their NBA careers. I think, the 1 year De'Aaron Fox in Sacramento when they played the Warriors in the playoffs, that's it. De'Aaron Fox has been a player on a bunch of losing teams throughout the course of his career. 2 years really in Sac, and then last year he ended up being traded middle of the year. They had a good year record-wise the year they knocked out the Warriors as well. So of his 8-year career, he's had 2 years where he's been good, and all these guys at the Spurs basically have been a part of this massive rebuild. But they're trying to figure some things out. But they are a team that you would have thought maybe would not be at the level of, hey, play-in tournament for sure, but they look like they could be in that mix as soon as this year for the top 6, which is another team all up in that Warriors mix. So how the head-to-heads go are important. And to get that first one now with a day, and then you play them again on Friday, it's a real opportunity for the Warriors to get the jump on San Antonio. Heck, you win one, maybe you wind up winning another one. All right, let's hear from Steph Curry. Steph, he goes for 46. And Steph, this was on the NBC Sports Bay Area telecast immediately following the game. Here's Steph talking about Draymond's defense and loving going up against some of the big names in the league.
Yeah, he loves these type of matchups, giving up however many, almost a foot. And just the idea that, he takes on those challenges. Offensively, we know as the season goes on, he's going to continue to be productive on that end. But for him to just look at the stats aside, he just made him work. He was physical all night. That's the only way you can, go against a talent like that. You're going to give up numbers, but it's just a matter of how. And I think he loved that effort and that challenge, and that's the only way we won tonight.
Yeah, they don't win unless Draymond plays at that level. And again, tonight we talk about the Warriors are big game junkies and they're big matchup junkies, which is why I thought last night was surprising that OKC really put it on them. but Wemby's been right at the forefront of all the headlines in the league here to begin the season. And so for the Warriors, they get up for those games. Like it wasn't, there wasn't much of a doubt that the Warriors were going to win at least one of the 3 games against OKC and San Antonio. Like that to me, that just knowing them, if they were going to have all their guys, I figured they would win one of those 3 because they'd be extremely locked in. The question is going to be, can they find make sure they don't slip up against the Pelicans, make sure that they can get Orlando or Miami. Miami probably going to be tougher the 6th game. I mean, it's always the other games for the Warriors that you're kind of more concerned about than the games when they play the bright lights type opponents. Opening night in LA, they win and play one of their best games. At home against Denver, they win and they are able to come back late and win a game that you didn't think they were going to have a chance. They beat the Clippers at home. They love getting up and playing against James Harden. The Clippers had owned them and they win that game. And then you don't have Steph. And you get throttled by Denver and you lose the game in Sacramento. And it's the Indiana and Milwaukee games. Like it's never about the premium games for the Warriors. They are going to hold their own and win those games. It's can they win enough of the other games? And I think that's the frustrating part about this season is the fact that you look at the overall totals and that they've tricked away some of these games that could have them sitting in a much, much prettier position. All right, let's hear our last cut of the night. Al Horford, again, on the Wembenyama, how did the Warriors defend? Horford got some time on Wemby in addition to Draymond Green. And here's Horford on the matchup of the job Draymond did and just what it's like going up against Victor Wembanyama.
Draymond did a really good job on him, contesting all his stuff. And it's tough because, you can't take everything away from him, and he still finds a way to get 31 points. So when he pulls up like that for 3, it's hard. And, you try your best to challenge it. But I felt like we did good. We contained them as best we could. And yeah, he's still going to, impact the game, but I felt like we were good.
Yeah, impacted the game. Solid job. Again, you talk about 19 times with the 8 turnovers and the 11 missed shots. The Warriors were able to stop him tonight, so job well done there. All right, let's. That's our Sounds of Dubs OT. Let's get back to the YouTube chat, Kyle, and our final wave here of Kyle's clicks with Kyle Haar back in our Daly City studios here on the Sports Leader. Kyle, what do we got, man? You let me know. You would take this as far as we want, as far as you want tonight. You are in control here. Draymond with the best plus-minus minutes on the team, but 1 for 10 and fouls out. Most Draymond Green game ever. Yeah, it was a War Daddy Draymond Green game. The only thing missing tonight was the national television audience. The game tonight, the game last night was not a nationally televised game. The game on Friday, by the way, Kyle, Amazon Prime, again, Amazon Prime game Friday night. 6:30 tip-off, so we'll be on right around 9 here. It's a later tip-off, so Dubs OT right around 9 on the Friday night. But yeah, Amazon Prime, if you're looking to watch that one on Friday, get your streams straight. All right, from Fosse, let's go to San Jose Jazz fan 8. Brandon Podziewski picking up his dribble under the basket with Wemby on his back. Yeah, there were some really ugly moments for Pods tonight. Yeah, he made some plays tonight, and he wasn't net positive tonight in terms of the plus minus. But my goodness, Podziemski continues to be one of the most frustrating players on the world. I think to this point this season, if you're just saying top to bottom, 13 games in, who's the most frustrating player on the roster been, I think it still has been Podziemski. For all of the talk about Kaminga, for all the talk about, the veterans maybe not bringing it in certain games, but I think Podziemski has still been the most frustrating player on the roster here through the first 13. Dr. P, I'm throwing a trade deadline party at Thrive City when Kaminga and or Podziemski are finally traded. We'll have to find a night. I'm looking. It is Super Bowl week, by the way. The trade deadline is Super Bowl going to be here in the Bay, and the trade deadline is Super Bowl week. I'm looking at, February 5th, I believe, is the trade deadline. Warriors are going to be playing in Phoenix on February 5th, and then they're going to play the Lakers the night before the Super Bowl, but down in Southern California. So yeah, our special Dubs OT February 5th in Thrive City on trade deadline day, after the Warriors take on the Suns on the road. We might have to work that out with our friends over at Harmonic in Thrive City. But yeah, still a long way to go. Still a long way to go in terms of 64 days until Kaminga's trade window is even open. So it's still, I think, more on how do you figure out a way to make the next 2 months work than it is about banishing Kaminga completely from the Warriors' plans. As much as I think it was pretty clear what wasn't the same that we've seen here to begin this season and what looked an awful lot like what we saw at the end of last season after the Jimmy Butler trade. Florida Dubs fan was scary after a 14-point first quarter, but Steph took over, help from Moody and others. Love Moody's dunk. Yeah, Moody will surprise you every once in a while. He'll go up and throw one down every once in a while and kind of surprise you. Good note there. JC Mack, Draymond is the only player in the NBA not needing an offensive game, but he should shoot less. Yeah, when they dare you though. 7 threes is probably a bit much. I'm just glancing back at the box score. 7 threes is probably a bit much, JC Mack. I'm with you on that. All right, next up, Sear. I think it's now clear they were talking about Kuminga. I think it was Kaminga and Pajemski, honestly. But yeah, I think that's a real good point, Sear. Is it Kaminga? Is it Pajemski? I mean, the fact that, neither one of them started, and people, it's funny, we've talked about this a lot. Like, Pods has started half the games. Post has started half the games. Tonight, neither one of them started, and Kaminga had started every game up until tonight. But yeah, Pods is kind of 50-50 when they've gone small. He's been in the starting lineup. Tonight, he wasn't. So I don't know. I wonder if, here's the one thing I will say. When Steph Curry and Draymond Green specifically speak to the media and say something like what was said last night, and I know Draymond had a little back and forth with, I think it was Kevin O'Connor, the national writer, about, you know what you're talking about, you know who I'm talking about, all that. That's fine, whatever. But anytime Steph and Draymond speak, they speak purposefully. They know what they think it through. They don't rant and rave. They know how it's going to be taken. But they also have a relationship with Steve Kerr to where they will go into Steve Kerr and say, hey, I think it's time. We need to make a change here or there. And so to have the comments be what the comments were, and then to have the lineup be what the lineup was, I think you can pretty safely figure that they were, at least in the Draymond side, talking about Kaminga. But I also think there was a little bit of Pods. And I think if you're Kerr, so much of this is managing egos right now and managing the trade value of Kaminga, even if he falls out of the starting lineup and potentially isn't playing as much in the rotation. But I also think, and look, Will Richard earned the start. And we've been talking about, we talked about last night. I'd start Moody and I'd start Will Richard. We said it with our buddy Reggie and Vallejo. But I think when you look at it, it's, can you start Kaminga? Can you not start Kaminga and then Pods? Like tonight, like as maligned as Pods has been, like if I'm Kaminga in the ego managing, if I'm Kaminga and I'm out of the starting lineup and Moody's in, that probably doesn't tick me off all that much. But if I'm Kaminga and Moody's in and Pods is in, I might be ticked off at that. If given the fact that Pods has been just even more up and down, I think this year than even Kaminga has been to begin the year. So there's a delicate. It's a final, by the way, in Sacramento, Kyle. It got close. Atlanta 133, to 100. So the Kings lose by 33. The Lakers lose by 29. So not quite enough, but the Kings did make a run for you to try to get it closer to 30. But our little wager as to who is going to end up losing by more, it still wound up being Sacramento.
Although a quick look at the box score, and Keon was the leading scorer.
Oh, yeah. I mean, everybody there wants him to play a ton, so they got their wish tonight in Sacramento. They are 3-9 now, I believe, and they're going on the road. But again, that was 20 for Keon Ellis tonight. Yeesh. That is brutal. All right, let's get a couple more here, Kyle. Rapid fire. Kaminga equals Drew Bledsoe. He should really rest the knee for like 10 games, maybe. That from Jokes on You. We'll see. Again, it keeping appearances up, that everybody's harmonious, I do think is important. But if Kaminga's healthy, Kaminga, you can carve out a bench role for Kaminga. Like nobody is saying on this show that Kaminga shouldn't play at all while they try to figure out what the trade will be post January 15th. Buddy Hield's brain is on, quote, loading mode throughout the game. Yeah, he makes some silly mistakes. And I think that's the next one that that's the next player that Kerr maybe is going to have to look to go away from here as things move forward and other options present themselves. Sear, I can't wait for Shams to post breaking news. The Kaminga project has finally ended in Golden State. We are 2 months away from that being able to be the case. All right, let's get our comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
Bennett Roth. I can see the headline now. Kerr says Warriors are better without Kaminga. Yeah, that's funny. That is a great comment of the night from the great Bennett Roth. Appreciate you and appreciate everybody in the YouTube chat. All right, let's close up shop here tonight. Really appreciate everybody with a little fun with numbers here on this Wednesday.
This is Dubs OT with JD. Time now for fun.
I'm a fun guy.
With numbers.
No, I'm just having fun.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live on knbr.com and the KNBR app.
Yeah, congratulations to Bennett Roth. It is kind of like the old Inside the NBA. It's sponsored by nobody, so we don't have a prize. We're working on a prize for our Dubs OT comment of the night. Wish we could get you a prize, Bennett, but yeah, no prize tonight. It's like the Nito stat of the night, sponsored by nobody. Warriors end the road losing streak, which had reached 6. They had not won a road game since the first game of the season in LA. So they're 1-6 on the road. They're 6-0 at home. No, they're 2-6 on the road. They're 5-0 at home. Come on, JD, do the math. 7-6 overall. 9 in the last 12 against the Spurs. 2-2 in the second game of back-to-backs this season. They have split. They've played 4 back-to-backs already. They've swept 1, and they have split the other 3 sets of back-to-backs. Warriors play the Spurs again in San Antonio on Friday. Again, that's a 6:30 tip, and so we'll be on right after that around 9 o'clock on a Friday. I'll be in Arizona, geared up for the 49er weekend, so we will be on location for that Dubs OT with JD on Friday, so stay tuned for that. 13 steals for the Dubs, 8th time this season with 10 or more. 5-3 are the Warriors in those games. And the 43-point third quarter, I think it was the best quarter of the season for the Warriors. It was their first 40-point quarter for the season. They had a 39-point fourth quarter a couple of days ago in that game they won against Indiana as the Warriors get the job done. Their largest comeback win of the season for the Dubs, 16-point deficit overcome. They also overcame a 14-point deficit in the game that I think was in the running for their best win of the year, along with tonight. That was the game at home in the home opener against Denver. So the Warriors hit their biggest comeback. They also hit a season-high 21 three-pointers. They had hit 19 a couple of times, but this is the first time they eclipsed 20. Sixth different starting lineup for the Warriors. A lot of talk about the starting lineup. And again, Stephen Curry, what can you say about him? 46 points. He finds it tonight as he did in that game against Denver. His top 2 games of the year, the top 2 Warrior wins of the year, 46 tonight, 42 in that one against the Nuggets. His 73rd 40-point game. And after turning 35, Steph with his 12th 40-point game, which is tied with Michael Jordan and only trails LeBron James for 40-point games after the age of 35. After the age of 30, he's got 43 40-point games, which trails only MJ. So Steph getting it done at his age better than just about anybody other than LeBron and MJ throughout the course of NBA history in terms of scoring. Jimmy Butler, 28, 8th 20-point game of the year for Jimmy Buckets to go with 6 boards, 8 assists, 3 steals. Jimmy Butler also made a season-high 5 3-pointers of the Warriors' 21, and Moses Moody ended up with 19. Moses Moody was fantastic in the first half, kept the Warriors in it when nobody else was shooting the ball well, and then the Warriors got it going as the game went along, and Steph got it going as the game went along as well. Al Horford, 9 points, 3 assists, 3 rebounds. He was a net negative in terms of the plus-minus, but they needed his minutes on Al Horford to work in conjunction with Draymond Green's minutes on Al Horford, and Will Richards started for the second time in his career. Of course, he had 30 last week against Sacramento. He had 3 points tonight, but Will Richard, 22 minutes, 3 points, didn't do a lot on the stat sheet, had a steal, had some turnovers. Not a great Will Richard night overall, but he wound up being a positive with that group that started the first and third quarters. All right, that's going to do it. Big thanks to Kyle Haar in our Daly City studios. Jordan Pratari tonight as well, our cutter extraordinaire. And anybody I'm forgetting tonight, Kyle? Just Kyle and and Jordan,
yeah,
and
just the
Kyle's
duo
plus
tonight.
minus.
Yeah. That was great.
Just the duo tonight. Great show. Thanks to everybody in the YouTube chat. A good 2 hours here, just about an hour and 50 from the time we got started after the final couple of minutes of that final 30 seconds of that game. Felt like it took about 2 hours. But we'll be back on Friday. I'm going to be joining Copes and Depop tomorrow, so we'll chop it up with those guys right around 4:50. I'm also going to pop on with Larry Kruger as well, as we'll talk some 49ers with Krug tomorrow between 6 and 7. So look for that, and we'll join you on Friday night right around 9 o'clock after the Warriors take on the San Antonio Spurs again. Thanks to everybody. We'll talk to you then right here. Warriors win it 125-120, and we're all over it. Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Emirates Cup or bust?
Oh, hell yeah.
First of all, you got to start off liking each other.
I'm super cereal.
Big fat dub.
Ain't nobody going to stop me.
I just wake up and I can shoot it no matter if I'm playing or not.
But great win.
Who are these